Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, is the EU going to block custom ROMs? This is actually an interesting article that I missed in its first couple rounds around, and you guys probably did as well. And so it's an interesting thing to see where and how these things slip through and how they seem to get by everybody, because this is kind of, to me, a little bit of a big deal. So to start out, let's just have a look over here at, this is the European Commission, and what they're looking at is the upload of software on radio equipment. So the entire premise here is to make sure everything is safe. Of course, if you altered something about the software in this world where software can even actually define and drive hardware, is it possible to push software onto some device that causes it to go outside of the scope of normal or healthy or safe range? And that's kind of what they have, what they're kind of thinking of. And so this is the thing that makes you think, oh, well, of course they would want to be careful with this, because if I take some device that can broadcast radio waves, maybe a G5, whatever, or a smart meter or something, and I put some type of weird random software on it, could that not impact how the thing works and move it to work outside of what the law would dictate as a safe range? And that's kind of what they're thinking of doing this. But the implications are certainly interesting, because we all have these things called cell phones. And a cell phone is a radio device. It sends and receives radio data. A wireless router sends and receives radio data. And effectively, what the law would dictate, now this is actually an update to a 2014 law, but what this would actually dictate is that it would be illegal for you in the European Union to put any form of software on a device unless the company certifies that the software is good. So this is a Nexus 5X phone, which is a Google device. And I run a custom ROM on that. I run Lineage on there because I don't want Google's backdoor fingers all over everything. And so I run that because the Lineage build has stripped out all of the things that make regular connections to the Google servers. So if Google were to come out and say, yes, we have certified this phone with Lineage, then I could, in the EU, if this were to pass through, then what would end up happening is they could certify that, and then it would be legal for me to take my device, unlock the bootloader, and install whatever software I would like onto it. But if they don't do that, then it would be illegal to do that. Now, does Google have any incentive? No. The problem is they have everything to lose and nothing to gain by certifying custom ROMs, FOSS software, or things like this, because it helps Google to have a device that has everything. And this is why I talked a while back where the EU was trying to slap Google with anti-competitiveness, which I said was flat out ridiculous, because Google's devices are the most unlockable and most compatible with custom software that's out there. I have the choice when I go out and buy my device what I want to get. In fact, that's exactly why I bought this device. I was running different phone. I said I want to run a custom device. What will work? And then I proceeded to find a used version of that device, so I could pick up a device and use whatever ROM I wanted. Now, of course, that's not always easy, because there are several devices that are not unlocked or not unlockable, which would make it almost impossible. So does Samsung, who really, really, really wants you using their device, are they going to take any amount of time or consideration to certify a custom ROM like Lineage? And most versions of the Samsung flagship phones can run Lineage. But if this were to pass through, then you could not take your device and install a custom ROM. Now, there's another factor to look at. Consider this. I run pfSense for my router. Now, this one here is an interesting little debate because pfSense generally, it's capable of plugging a wireless card into it and sending and receiving data, but my particular build, it's generally better to leave that card off and utilize a wireless access point instead. So pfSense, I don't know where this would fit in the middle of the law because the core functionality is not necessarily dealing with radio waves, and most of the individual devices, like my PC itself, does not actually directly support any of the radio wave transmission. However, by plugging an antenna into the USB port, I can make it have that functionality. Where does that sit in this law? But the next thing consumables will have is your wireless routers. Because several wireless routers you can buy from the store, you can actually unlock and install your own custom router software on there, and those do have built-in hardware-based wireless receivers. And so while the noble intent of this ruling at the EU is to make sure that radio waves stay within safe signal ranges, it has the after effect, the afterthought, that unless a company comes through and certifies it can work with the custom hardware, then it would be illegal to do so. And almost no company has an incentive to do that. Only if we get something like the Pine phone or the Librem 5 phone coming out, where they do have a vested interest in the free and open source. They would certify anything that is a big enough case. But now we have this extra question: how can a software become big enough to get certified if we can't use it to begin with? So the EU is trying to force a law which would produce antitrust, the one organization that's so concerned with antitrust, which is quite hilarious. Now, as I said, I missed this case. Now, the feedback period is going until from 1/28/19 to 3/4/19. So, in other words, as of about 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point, the feedback is now closed. The next portion is the public consultation, a draft act, and a commission adoption. So this is where you guys in the EU need to fight back. We probably missed that feedback period, but now it's time to start contacting people who are above these levels to look at this. Now, of course, the Free Software Foundation European branch has some information to say on this as well. They talk about the EU radio lockdown directive, some information. Like I said, this is an update to a 2014 mandate, and they do a good job of highlighting what the dangers are of free software that we have mentioned. It will destroy competition in the EU, which would mean that, these companies can still go to non-EU nations or someplace like the United States. We can still do this, but I'm concerned about the deeper issue. If something passes through in Europe, United States usually isn't too far down the pipeline. So this is certainly interesting. Now, again, the open public comment session missed. I missed this. I didn't see this on my radar. I first heard about this when the Level 1 News covered this issue, I think, which was yesterday. So this is an interesting thing. So this is one of these, thinking about it. So what do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments there. Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Does this negatively impact you? Are you in the European Union? Keep the discussion going in the comments down below. If you want to help support the channel, have a look at the links in the description or right above me here, and take a look on the social media platforms so you don't lose out on any upcoming announcements.